This is Making Light. Julie Hurt and Kate Fogger are soul-level intuitives and animal communicators. This show is about us sharing our experiences in the hope it will help others along their path. So let's go make some light. Hi everybody, I'm Kate Fogger and with me is Julie Hurt, and together we are making light to humans being. And today I believe we are at Bravery, week 2, through the lens of not worthy. And Julie assures me that she can thread all this together. So
it's not me, it's the guides.
Julie's guides assure us that they could, because we were chatting as we always do. We try not to chat too much, otherwise we find we've had all the juicy bits out in the open, and then it's a bit forced to do it all again. But enough of it came up from just personal chatting, and Julie said, I think we should put this bit in the show. And I was like, well, if you can link it to Bravery and Not Worthy, on you go, doll. So on you go, doll.
And I turn it to the guides. So yeah, okay. So we were talking before. This is how we led up to it. We were and I'm looking at my notes. This is why sometimes they have me take notes. It's pretty fun. Anyway,
you take notes anyway, Julie.
I totally do. Although I've been practicing, like since working with Danielle, I've been practicing with not taking notes. And then every now and then they'll just say, just write this word. Many times I don't remember what it means, but the client does. And then it helps. Well, the guides remind me too. What am I talking about? Anyway, so we were talking about like minimizing what all we do in a day. I'm just going to say in a day. And simplifying our lives. That's what we were talking about. And you were mentioning that I'm going to say the word frustration. There's a frustration because you feel like you were clearing your plate from a scheduling perspective, and yet you still don't feel like you have enough time in the day. And of course, right now, this is when the landscaping group arrives and starts to kick in. Can you hear them?
I don't hear anything.
Good. Every time. Anywho, so we were talking about that frustration in trying to clear the day and what you actually want to accomplish. And you are happy with the things that you do, like the conversations that you have, this particular conversation, as well as a couple others that you have, as well as working with your clients and all that good stuff. You still have this pressure we were talking about, and this is where we stopped the conversation because we felt the guides were saying, you can do this. There's still this pressure behind the schedule. So they had me write pressure behind the schedule and pressure behind doing something. And I said, so I asked you, what is that pressure? And that's what we stopped at. What is, can you get, and I had even said, can you put it into words, what the pressure is, as well as how it feels in your body? Can you do both?
Okay, so the pressure is this ever-present, I won't say guilt, it's more a sort of nagging feeling that I should be doing something constructive. And so Gary's away at the moment. And in full transparency, it's easier when he's not here to sit and watch TV. And I have, and I've really enjoyed it. I watched a whole series of RuPaul's All Stars 8, I think it is, and it's just I don't watch, actually in a couple of days I won't watch, I can stop. It's not like that's all I do, but it's almost like because it's not I'm not allowed to, but because Gary sort of frowns upon it and makes fun of it and makes me feel like I'm a stupid ditzy moo for watching it. I did sort of binge watch it, and like I'm happy not to, because I've sort of, but I mean, when I watch it, I do get so much out of it. So there is that element of it. There's also this element of, I don't know, I'm in a downward cycle at the moment. I think it's fair to say, whether that's as a result of a number of things we can talk about later, whether it's simply not having Gary around, and actually maybe I get used to having company and I don't have any company, and Kat's no fucking good for company. Kat's a crap for company. She literally sleeps, gets up, gets a bit of a cuddle because she's hungry.
Okay, so there's something in that, because that's been a theme for me is as well, this simplification, this I'll call it minimizing and work, and I mentioned this to you too, and working on what is it that I actually need to do every single day, because I want to, grow my business. I want to do all that. I enjoy all that stuff. It's so just to manage the social media alone, we were talking about, is so overwhelming, having to think of new things. And so as I continue to work with Lucas and my guides, particularly when I take my daily walks with all of them, they were saying, just write, because that's what I really want to do, is write. And then in your posts, once or twice a week, talk about what you wrote or promote the thing for now. And it'll go from wherever else it needs to be. The other thing though, and this was in my last newsletter, is this idea of watching them sleep as much as they do, because dogs sleep like 14 hours a day.
Oh, cats
And
sleep for
so,
1 hour a day, honestly.
yeah,
She's literally up for 5 minutes, has a shit, eats something, goes back to sleep again.
yeah. I mean, he's asleep at my feet right now because his bed's underneath my desk. And when I ask him, when I ask him even about that, he's like, you should try this amount of rest that he takes. Because the other thing that, I wrote this post about he being asked not to come back to daycare, to this particular daycare. And you and I, you've helped him helped me actually tremendously in trying to understand what else going on behind the scenes. And it really had, a lot of it had to do with my own anxiety as well. But also, I'm also concerned in trying to fill his schedule, just like how many parents try to fill their children's schedule instead of allowing them to play. Like there's something, your cat, Sally, is also trying to say something about that part too.
See, the truth be told, Julie, I'm quite happy to sit and watch telly. And honestly, if I'm left to my own devices and nobody's watching me, I actually watch less and less of it. It's like I'll sit in front of the telly, but I will get inspired to go away and check something. I'll look up some craft things, or if it's watching RuPaul, I'll look up a word that I haven't heard before. Here's a new one for you, AFAB. What an amazing word. And I can't wait to tell one of my friends that, because she's one of these people that she gets worked up about gender acronyms and that, and I can't wait to tell her this one, because I'm like, I just don't know what your problem is. Who gives a fuck if someone who wasn't born a woman wants to call herself a woman? Does it matter? I don't know. It doesn't bother me, but it does bother some people very much. Yeah. But AFAB, assigned female at birth. So do you know, and that'll suck me down a rabbit hole, and I'll go, God, isn't that fascinating? And then before you know it, do you know what I mean? So it's not just it starts off as like I don't think it is mindless TV. But I'm still okay, so what's coming to mind is when in the beautiful heady days of alcohol, having a glass of wine when you got home from work or whatever was a signal that this is my time now. I am done obeying, I'm done, this is, I'm not being paid for this is my time. And it's almost like, for me, watching TV is again a reclamation of I'm doing as I please. So it is a very sort of, this is my free time. Watching TV is one of these mindless occupations that you're only allowed to do when you're on holiday or at the weekend or something like that. So maybe that's part of it, is I associate watching TV as absolute not freedom, but yeah, freedom, sort of like, it's undemanding, shall we say.
Yeah. So
go on.
Oh, so there's a when you put it in those terms, there is a boundary there, that time, my time. And then this idea of not worthy. Are you feeling, and this is something to think about, I feel, not think, right? Feel how not worthy plays into having your time.
Yes,
and
totally.
Keeping that boundary.
It's totally, but it's also what horrifies me is how much of it, and this is very subconscious, and it's also true when you work as well. Like I always used to be one of these people that worked 100% of the time when I was at my desk. Like I didn't gossip, I didn't watch movies, I was never on social media at work. I mean, admittedly, when I started work, there wasn't such a thing. But by the time I left, I knew if I walked past 20 people's desks, 19 of them would have a window up on Facebook or something, watch, well, how active they were on it, I don't know. What I know is I never checked Facebook when I was at work. And there was this idea that, you can sit at your desk and not work for several hours and nobody would notice, right? I never did that. I didn't latterly. Well, no, I didn't. No, because I've never been that interested in stuff like that. But it used to really annoy me that there was this idea that, if you were at the coffee machine and that was time, and they actually weren't like this at my work, but you can see, there are people who could be seen to be working who I knew were not working, because I could see what they were doing, and they were on fucking Facebook, and there's no way you could have written an email that long. There's other people that would write gargantuan emails in a response to some technical discussion about whether it should be a bit or a byte or something, because engineers like that. Then there's people that will like craft an email that must have taken them like literally 8 hours, and I'm like, is this really good use of your time? You're literally just showing off here, There's so many ways, but that again is this perception of value for money for the company. If you're sitting at your desk and you work late hours, your value for money. Well, you wouldn't have to work late hours if you weren't on fucking Facebook all day. That's what I would say. And it's like that. I don't know where I'm going with this, but there is this idea that if somebody's that I should be doing something, but if I can sit at my desk and do some research on social media or stuff like that for my business, which I haven't for a while, but it's possible. And you can lose hours of time doing that. You know how easy it is to lose time chasing this stuff. And it may be legitimate research. It may end up being nothing. And is that time wasted? But I feel okay about that because it was under the banner of work, under the banner of this is me building my business, even if their end result is nil and I end up not using it or whatever, that time is justified. Watching RuPaul, however, doesn't count. So yes, there's a huge unworthy.
So why? So, and I think this is where, to me, and we're maybe making a stretch to bravery, but I do feel like there's some bravery in this, but not worthy might be blocking that bravery part. So I'm just going to say that. Okay. But what is wrong with watching RuPaul as inspiration, coaching for inspiration, coaching for yourself, bringing in little bits and pieces to help other clients in particularly soul level intuitive coaching. I find, here's what I'm hearing is there's all forms of contemplation. This notion, what we hear when you talk is that there's all these definitions of what time is, how time should be used, what work is, how work should be, like all this type of stuff that we all get caught up in. To me, there is what I'm hearing is for you is this idea of RuPaul is extremely brave, in my humble opinion, as well as all the queens, totally. Yeah, absolutely, totally brave. And so there's something in there about that is an inspiration about being brave, but there's also RuPaul, are his pronouns he or her?
He out of drag, she in drag, but it's the same thing.
So in RuPaul. Oh, is it the same? Okay.
So she's RuPaul in drag and RuPaul out of drag. So
I thought he had a different name.
No. He's RuPaul Charles, but in drag she's still called RuPaul.
Got it. Okay.
Actually, do you know what? I'm just assuming that. I don't know that I've read it, but
okay. I thought, and it doesn't matter. So she has incredibly, like, you will quote different things that she or the queen say as mantras.
Amazingly, yes.
Yeah. So what is wrong with watching something that inspires you? Because contemplation takes so many different forms. We were talking earlier about Father Richard Rohr and his Center for Contemplation and Action in Albuquerque, and different, atonement vis-a-vis at-one-ment, different things like that. Contemplation can take so many different forms. Like, people think that meditation means you have to sit in the lotus position, hands like this, and be absolutely quiet. And that's not necessarily true. You can meditate taking a walk, and you can meditate reading your favorite book. So who's not to say you're not contemplating?
Yeah, I agree. I think it
Okay.
just comes from,
Yeah.
I suppose, from my mother originally, and it'd be the same when you were growing up. There wasn't much television, and television was very much um, a sport for free time. I think that's where it comes from. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, I'm now watching crime drama, and there is a bit of me that but I'll only watch stuff that really interests me. Like if it's shit, I'll just switch it off. Not, I won't watch shit. I watch Judge Judy quite a lot because I quite like her.
Yeah. Again, she espousas she can espouse some inspiration and some clear thinking, if you will. There's times, yes.
Yeah, there are times I disagree with Judge Judy, and I'd really like to have a
Yeah.
word with her. But she's, because she's another one that um, she has such a thing about people not working. Like, if people say that they're not working because they're ill, and she'll come down on them like a ton of bricks, like, well, you can walk, there'll be something. And I think that doesn't help to perpetuate that. I mean, I appreciate there are
Yeah.
people that take the piss. I don't think so much in states because you don't get as many benefits. There are people that take the piss out of benefits, but in my experience, people who take the piss out of benefits are not just in it for medical benefit. They're usually people that are claiming something and have a job on the side and this, that, and the other. The people that are on disability benefit, which is not a lot of money, so that really annoys me because I think, shut up, Judge Judy. There are a lot of illnesses that are not like your back's broken. There's a lot of things anyway.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I guess
But justifying work is like a thing for you, right? Justifying
yes,
what work is based on a
yes.
definition that's not
I
serving.
don't want to have to justify anything, Julie. It's like, when am I allowed to be when am I allowed to be retired? When am I allowed to not have to explain my time? That's what this is about when Gary's away. It's like, oh, nobody's looking. I'm going to live my life how I want to. And that means I'm going to watch telly all day and eat shit. It's like I feel like a child. It's like, daddy's not watching. So let's do something naughty. And my biggest naughty thing is to watch more television. And I'm so tired of having stuff that has to be done. I don't want to do it. That's what I was talking about, simplifying my life.
Yeah.
Like, I feel such a burden on owning a property. I mean, I can't see any way out of it, and I appreciate I have a lovely home, but just the fucking Scottish water were here, and then I've got to get my car serviced because it's squeaking, and then there's the MOT and the tax that has to happen, and then there's insurance, and then this needs mowed and cleaned and cut, and then the drive's coming up, and and you're just like, fuck's sake, there's such an overhead. Do you ever read Jack Reacher books? It was Jack Reacher. I think it's
I know who it is.
Lee Charles, isn't it? Can't remember the right. And he never, I think it was Jack Reacher, he never owned a home for that reason. Because there is so much overhead in having staff. And that's this huge resentment I have, Julie, because when I look at it, what in my timetable, maybe I guess all these things aren't actually in my timetable, which is why when I look at my timetable, I can't see what to take out. Because these are all what we talked about before, the unspoken work that needs to happen in running a household. But I find it overwhelming. It's like, but I used to have a full-time job and I did all this, and now I'm like, oh my god, I just want to do nothing for long enough to get bored with doing nothing, because I do get bored eventually.
So what's wrong with that? What is wrong? What about not being worthy?
Because I should be building a business, Julie, because there's nothing wrong with me and I'm not sick. So why aren't I trying to do this? Why aren't I trying to do? Why haven't I cut the fucking hedge out there? Why haven't I did actually
But
part.
why have this? Why allow this chatter to continually reinforce what I'm saying? Could be like, clearly the universe is having you spend time resting and in contemplation, and whenever you try to fight that, you get even more exhausted, and then this whole stuff in your head starts moving around. So what is, where does that feeling of you're not worthy to turn all that off and do what the hell you want, where is that not worthy coming from? How can you put bravery or use bravery as a workaround to help with the not worthy in this regard?
I know where it comes from, but what I don't know is what, like, I know where it came from, the influencing factor, as we would say, and soul level coaching, and that comes from, you know, just my mother. What, you know, we weren't allowed to not be constructive. Everything, that's not fair. I suppose as children we did play, but as an adult, certainly, and I was lucky in that way as a child. We because we didn't have television and we were pretty much left to our own devices, so I can't complain about that. But at some point, and I think I picked this up as an adult, about being a functioning human being, there all these rules came into place about, oh, I just felt a bit dizzy there when I said that. At some point in my 30s, I began to get not pleasure but satisfaction from realizing that actually I was super efficient in the home, and because I used to buy certain stuff in bulk to make it cheaper because we didn't have much money, you know, things like that. And I would always shop around for the best mortgage, and I was always on top of what bank accounts we had and making sure our credit, like, I was always on top of all of that. And as I amassed this control over everything we did, I think somewhere in there came this satisfaction of worthiness. And that's something I constructed as an adult, which had come from being a child and always been told to be constructive. And I remember cutting out of, do you remember Reader's Digest?
Yeah, my dad resubscribed me to it. I still get it.
I used to read it on the toilet as a child, and I used to cut bits out of it when they were old or copy out them. I remember one of them saying, we see a boy sitting on a gate and we ask him what he's doing. He says, I'm sitting on a gate. And, you know, and that, I remember very young picking that out and thinking, well, why aren't I allowed to sit on the gate? Why aren't I allowed to just, you know, why do I have to be doing something that you want me to do, which is essentially what it is. So the bravery would be the fuck you, wouldn't it? I'll do as I please. Easier when there's
well, it's actually not to edit what you say. It's like one step further is what I'm hearing. It's bravery as I am worthy to do exactly as I please.
Oh. I'm not, I just, but I can't, you see, I think I can do it when nobody's looking, but actually,
right.
But actually, I still feel
totally.
that
You've
I'm
talked nonstop.
wrong.
I mean, no offense, you've talked nonstop about how you're not worthy and Gary's not there. And so you're doing this in private, and yet you're still hitting yourself like you're not worthy to do this. And yet everything around you is telling you, do it, inviting you.
But is it? You see, all that comes to mind for me is laziness.
And that's the negative belief kicking back in. So the guides also had me just write down this little bravery in two forms, as far as working on as far as not worthy being the negative belief and bravery being the workaround. There's bravery in putting on the brave face and I'm doing everything that you want me to do. And there's also bravery in letting go, finger, like if you're holding on like this, or we are, right? Because same thing's happening to me, right? My house is a total freaking disaster. And I'm learning to be okay with it right now. It's hard as hell, right? But I don't have the time. So, but allowing a finger to come off of that grip and going, and being brave to do that. Okay, all right, yep, okay. I've got dog hair everywhere, and my house is fine. Oh, but it's fine. Okay, I'm not going to do as much social media this week. And okay, and so bravery in that letting go. So there's bravery in putting on that brave face to the outside world and all their rules and all that crap that we also have to let go of. And then there's also just the bravery in letting go of what people want you to do so that you can just sit on that fence or gate, to refer back to the Reader's
Swing
Digest.
on the gate.
Gate, yeah. Which is interesting that it's sitting on a gate.
Swinging, sorry, it is swinging. I remember that now. It's swinging on the gate. So it's.
Oh, okay. Because
Yeah.
I was going to say gate represents a doorway, an openness, a new place to walk into. So it's interesting that the story used a gate, because when you can sit or swing on a gate, you're allowing yourself to move in and out, move yourself towards something, maybe take a little bit back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, which is Father Richard Rohr's theme for the year, is examining the 2 steps forward and examining the 1 step back. So it's interesting to me that it's a gate, because there's so much symbolism in that.
There was another one like that as well. It was similar to that, which I can't remember. I think because nowhere in the spiritual books does it say sit down and watch a good crime drama. That's the problem. Like even with the
no, and it won't. Well, because when the spiritual books were written, it's not like Law and Order SVU was a thing.
But right? It's like, because even with RuPaul I can.
And RuPaul totally wasn't a thing.
I could justify it to myself because oh my God, I've learned so much from these. I want to say girls. They call themselves girls. Bitches is what they call themselves actually. It's quite funny because I had a friend over and I was like, well, you're gonna have to watch a bit of RuPaul. Can't have, because I have like one guest every 10 years. Can't have a guest without, making you watch some RuPaul. She actually asked to watch some, and she, after a couple of episodes, she's like, fuck me, she says, I'm hooked. Gonna have to watch this all the time. And it was interesting because it just randomly, the one I chose, because it had a couple of the earlier queens that were really like in your face dramatic. There was quite a lot of like bitchiness in it, which actually there isn't. It just depends on the series, but there isn't. So there was that bit of the drama, and I found myself like trying to explain it's not always like this. It's like, shut up, Kate, doesn't matter. But she's hooked as well. But it's it's about laziness, but it is cowardly actually, because it occurs to me that I could sit down here and Gary would not know what I was doing, and I could actually watch RuPaul on my laptop and nobody would know. Like, but that's cowardly. I don't know what it is about television. It's because it's a raising a flag on I'm not doing anything. Like
well, I also wonder if television, and I'm not wondering, they're actually guides are, let's throw this little thing out there. If television wasn't something that you had access to when you were a kid, for a variety of reasons, where you lived, your parents outlook on it, all that stuff. And then it was deemed lazy. I mean, one of the slangs for television is the boob tube, which isn't that interesting that they associate it with a female body part to make it even less appealing. In the US, the slang for television is the boob tube. It makes you a boob. Yeah, I just all that wrapped up in their patriarchy, damn it. So laziness then is associated with television. So if you are working on, I am not lazy, and then you watch television, which of course reinforces this negative belief of lazy, which is tied to not worthy, all this type of stuff. Of course, this is all going to come up as an effort for you to experience it and feel it so that it can be released, because it doesn't serve you, because clearly watching television feeds your soul. And even our teacher Danielle has said this to you too. Television feeds your soul. It's how you find things and get inspired and all that stuff.
Television's amazing. And it was interesting how because again, there were these, I don't watch these programs, but I certainly have in the past about, benefits cheap Britain and all that, like Britain, basically broken Britain, and there are always people going, oh, there's all these people who don't have any money but they've got money for a big fuck off TV. And then I was reading this book by Caitlin Moran, who's a comedian, but actually she's a very socialist, and in a way that I hadn't thought of. It's like she was saying, I love paying taxes. She says, I fucking love paying taxes because we were so poor when I was growing up that nobody needed to pay tax. So for me, it's like, I earn enough to pay taxes. Hallelujah, please take my money and share it with people, because she grew up really, really poor. poor. And she was writing this article about television, how everybody slags off working class people or poor people for watching television. And she's like, is it not the cheapest form of entertainment that anybody could ever have? You can learn to cook, you can learn to eat healthy, you can get exercises, you can get, you know, YouTube now that teaches you things that people don't have access to anywhere. And, you know, you can learn anything you want. I've learned more off YouTube and Google than I ever fucking learned at university. Like Wikipedia. You know, you can watch fashion and be inspired. You can watch artists. You can learn to paint. You can, you know, TV is fucking magic.
Absolutely.
And I can choose something. Like I want to watch. I mean, I don't watch enough TV to know what's coming up to be able to watch like things that I really want to. So I will only watch something that really inspires me, which is why I tend to watch the same stuff over and over again, because I don't really know what else is out there. I do know that if I Google, and this came from Vera, because she's a very stoic. Have you watched her, the detective?
I know what you mean. I've not watched that one yet. No.
But she's like a really good, solid British, hardworking, you know, good solid values. There's no fluff. She doesn't kiss. She drives an old Land Rover. She lives in a shitty little tumble down cottage in the Yorkshire moor, all that sort of thing, and all that really appeals to me. And I also know that if I look for gritty British crime drama, that's what I'm going to get. I'm not going to get glossy models wearing stupid coloured lipsticks and flouncing around with a new hair. Do you know, I know what I'm getting. I'm getting people, real pickles, people in the, you know, I'm gibbering, but like that's the sort of stuff I watch, stuff that makes my heart warm because I see people doing the right thing. Or, you know, there's always a moral to the story. And if something's not like that, I won't watch it. I started watching, it was called Love and Death, and it was actually advertised, and it was, I think it was it was an American drama about Pretty Little Lies.
Oh yeah.
But you see, it was all about the church. That's how it started anyway. And I thought, I don't want to watch this because that sort of stuff makes me really angry, watching all these pretty little housewives. And I'm pretty sure it goes deeper than that. And I think it takes a nasty turn. But it was about it. That's how it started, was like these pretty little housewives and how they appear and go to church and their barbecues and that. And I thought, I'm not watching this middle class shit. And I turned it off. Not that I'm judgmental. And I went back to my gritty crime drama.
Yeah. Well, and okay, so two things that they want to say is TV, as you were talking about television and the cheapest form of entertainment, which yes, it can absolutely be even cheaper than buying a book, which yes, you have libraries, but you can also get movies and television shows on DVD from your library. So television is actually a gateway. Notice, coming back to the story about the kid sitting on the gate, is a gateway to whatever warms your heart, inspiration, new ways of thinking. Here we have public television. You can watch 1 million documentaries. There's a new one out about the buffalo, and it ties it back to Native American culture. I can't wait to find 4 hours to be able to watch that because it sounds fabulous. I can't wait. I think it sounds amazing. But the other thing is you were talking about crime, and like crime would never, like watching a crime show isn't part of like a spiritual text. Well, and of course it wasn't in a spiritual text. What I find most crime are actually, well, they're parables, but it's also really good lessons of attachment to an outcome. There was a show that was on Netflix, and I actually did a YouTube video about it, and I can't remember the name of the show. It had Stanley Tucci in it and another guy whose name fails me now, who was in Around the World in 80 Days recently. But this guy that was in Around the World in 80 Days, he ends up, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. Somebody makes a mistake. And so he's worried that the mistake's going to be found out, right? So attachment to an outcome. So then he makes another mistake to cover up this mistake, but then it continually propels him down. And he's a vicar, completely compels him or forces him down this path because he's so attached to this outcome that he has absolutely no control over, that he ends up committing all these crimes. And Stanley Tucci, who is in prison for a crime, figures it out. And it's amazing. The whole show is amazing. So I will find it and I will tell you.
Okay, it's really interesting that you should say that, because because I've watched most of the Vera, and I thought, well, I'll try and find something like that, and I can't. It was called The Tower. It was really good, but I'll put a link in it, and that's exactly what happened. Is a young, inexperienced police officer. The other police officer is accused of making a racist comment. She wasn't actually in the room, but she knows her partner. And although he does say things, he's not a nasty man. It may have been misunderstood, but she is of color. So she feels very uncomfortable. She refuses to lie. He's looking to retire and take on another job, and then this turns into a thing. So she ends up changing her statement to say she was with him the whole time and he didn't make the racist comment. So it's a tiny, tiny, trivial little event that escalates into 2 deaths before you know it, and it was all because they tried to cover up this little lie, and then they have to cover up another little lie, and then there's more in this, and oh my god, and I'm sitting there going, she's just trying to do the right thing. Like, she's stuck. She's completely stuck now between a rock and a hard place, because she'll either admit she's lied and she drops her colleague in it, or she goes to prison because she's lied, you know, and suddenly it's escalated, and you're just going, and you know, it gives you such an insight into why people do really stupid things, because they get caught up in it and they can't see a way out. When really, actually, if you just gone, do you know what, I fucked up.
Yeah.
You know,
and lay those negative beliefs down.
There's our bravery. If you have the courage to just go, I made a fucking mistake. Sorry. Bring it on. But we don't. Well, I do.
No. We get caught up in the not worthy of whatever reason we were feeling not worthy. And so we're trying to cover it up. And the name of the show was called Inside Man. The Inside Man or Inside Man? Inside Man. It's on Netflix. I cannot recommend it enough. It's a limited series. Stanley Tucci and David Tennant, who is a fabulous British actor. Yes. Huh?
So many people think he's absolutely brilliant.
I love him. He was Around the World in 80 Days that they recently had for us on PBS. And I guess the second season is coming. I cannot wait. So
What's
good.
His name again? David Tennant. We just gave up Netflix.
Oh. Well, when you rearrange what you subscribe to, which we're about to do too, and switch over to switch something to Hulu, because we want to see a couple of shows that are on Hulu. But yeah, but
that's what we started doing. We stopped with the Netflix, so I've paid to do Channel 4, so we're watching all the foreign drama on Channel 4, and I've been watching ITVX, which is all this British drama, and you have to watch it with adverts, which I can't do when Gary's here, because Gary gets apoplectic if he has to watch an advert. So
y'all are spoiled.
So that's another reason. Hey,
I said y'all are spoiled, because I mean, when we stream, we don't have to watch. Although Amazon now, I don't know if you heard this. Sorry, I digress.
Yeah, half
Amazon
of the stuff
is now going to allow ads.
Yeah. No, well, we don't. It was at 60 quid for the year to watch the Channel 4, and the ITVX I think is about the same. But you know, you end up paying all these things. But yeah, we don't watch adverts. We try not to anyway. But that's the thing. Like with Judge Judy, I just have it on if I'm just sitting down having something to eat. And I'll sit there and I'll finish my breakfast and it's still on the adverts and it hasn't actually come on yet. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. I mean, they're mostly adverts for CBS reality, which always looks really great, but it's the same adverts over. And that's the thing about simplifying. I want to go somewhere where there's no adverts. People aren't trying to sell me shit all the time. That's what I want, Julie. I just want
so that even too is like something like, yeah, there's something in there too about having people sell you stuff and how the feelings and everything that raises as well. So
where are we with Bravery then? Bravery.
So can I just say this for you? Because this is what the guides are saying. They're just saying there for you is some homework around this not worthy / lazy and all that kicks up, and allowing yourself to use bravery to let go of the definitions that you think you have to fulfill and allow yourself to watch RuPaul or whatever you want, when you want, how you want. And even allow yourself to, whatever programming you're watching, allow it to inspire you and even take note of those inspirations going forward. So if you sit there even with a little notebook and go, I loved so-and-so's dress, or ooh, RuPaul just said this, you know, even taking note of that.
I do.
There you go.
Reminder for Kate, RuPaul in All Stars 8. So they're talking about they always have an episode in All Stars where they take in someone else as either a family member or a member of the not a member of the public. They obviously ask people to come in, so I think sometimes it'll be war veterans or something like that, and so that'll be the first time these people have been in drag, and for some of them it'll be the first time they've ever mixed with drag queens and that, so it's like a real experience. And it's like, and the whole point of drag, they say, is like you're just putting on an armor. It's a performance, and people can be themselves even though they're dressing up as someone else. They're allowing another bit of themselves to show. And one of the guys was saying, and I can't remember who it was, let's say it was firefighters, and he's just like, I just had such a good time. He's just sort of just so inspired, and I've learned so much from these people. And then reporter says, you felt your light in that costume. You need to find your light in every situation. And that's really what she teaches, is drag. For a lot of the drag queens, the drag is an expression that they allow themselves to be, and they can do all this stuff. And she's like, you get what the point is that you have to learn to realize that you have access to that inside and outside of drag. You may find it in drag and learn it and nurture it, but that is not a separate character. That is you, and you can take that and apply it to every day. I mean, she's just a fucking goddess. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So being brave to find the light. So using bravery as a workaround in an effort to find the light and letting go of not worthy, I think is amazing. And you can write that down for yourself and then see what comes up from there, whether you want to write more about it and share more about it, whether it comes up in readings and whatnot, counseling sessions that you do for people, or in coaching sessions you do for people, that, and just let it unfold. But that's the bravery to me, as she said, is letting that light shine. And isn't that funny? We're being brave here on Making Light to Humans Being.
Oh, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. So you want me to take us out in a good way?
Yes, thank you, Jen.
So thank you so much for being here today. We're hoping that this conversation about bravery all this month is showing that we can use workarounds in an effort to help lift us up and out, or up and through a negative belief. Negative workarounds do not always have to be negative. Bravery in this situation for both of us, as it pertains to not worthy, can help us move through not worthy so that we can do what we want, when we want, how we want, so we can be the light and making light to humans being. I'm Julie here. With me as always is Kate Fago. Please, if you haven't yet so far, subscribe here on our YouTube channel. We have reached 100 subscribers and we're going for 1,000. Oh, 101. And we are going for 1,000 people. So come on board and help us make some light. Be two humans being. Join us as we are. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram, but we do a lot more here. Kate has been working diligently to create this also as a podcast that you'll be able to get on Apple Podcasts and Google Play, all the different platforms.
On Amazon now, and there's a list. I sent you a list. Apple's haven't approved it yet, but it's on Spotify.
Yeah. So Kate's been working really hard to get this as a podcast so that you can listen to it wherever you go. So you can make light every place you go and be brave. So join us next week. We drop these episodes every Friday. Join us next week. We'll continue to talk about bravery, and next time will be not good enough, right? Or not lovable. I forget. We'll be one of them, and we'll go from there.
Enough.
Not good enough. So we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for being here. Take really good care of yourself. Bye for now.